Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight in our news. The tourism minister touts an increase in jobs in the tourism sector. Meanwhile, are more frequent labor force surveys on the way? We've got the answers.
Workers are still enthralled in negotiations over those payouts in the Grand Lucayan visa process.
Plus, a 6th grade student of the year nominee raises money for senior citizens.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, while unemployment in the country has increased overall, there were job gains in the private sector, specifically in the hotel industry. Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar says the gains are proof that moving away from the age-old practice of overstaffing the public sector was the right move to get the economy back on track. Jasmine Brown has the details in this report.
The tourism minister was candid in his comments as he insisted the latest labor force survey vindicates the Minister administration's strategy of slimming down the public service.
The failed strategies of trying to create employment through giving government jobs, which then led to greater government debt and led to further downgrades, downgrade after downgrade, has been halted. And we are now doing it the right way.
But not everyone sees it that way. The F&M government has been slammed over mass firings at government offices across the country. In fact, in November 2017, a mere 6 months after the Minutes administration took office, the labor force survey showed that the rise in unemployment from 9.9% to 10.1% nationally was largely attributed to a more than 6% reduction of jobs in the public service. That report showed jobs in government corporations decreased by 2,555 jobs, from 40,990 jobs to 38,435 jobs. The most recent labor force survey that was released on Monday showed that the national unemployment rate rose from 10% in May 2018 to 10.7% in November 2018. Despite that fact, officials at the Department of Statistics noted that there were employment gains that were driven by the private sector. The survey revealed that the number of self-employed persons stood at 32,475 in November 2018. That represents an increase of 11.9% since May 2018. De Aguilar says the numbers are encouraging.
The F&M's strategy is to create private sector jobs. I was also encouraged by the number of entrepreneurs that started their own businesses that factored into the report. So we are correcting this economy.
The gains were specifically made in the hotel, restaurant, wholesale, retail, transportation, and construction areas.
Now, some people, the naysayers out there, like to say that the growth is strictly because of one project, which is Bahama. And yes, to a certain degree, that is true. But I would like to emphasize that the growth is throughout the Bahamas. Abaco experienced a significant growth in stopover visitors. Eleuthera, phenomenal growth in stopover visitors. The Berry Islands, Andros, all of them have had double-digit growth. So this is something that we are seeing throughout the country, and not just limited to Nassau.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The frequency of labor force surveys will be determined by the results of the 2020 census. That's according to Acting Director of the Statistics Department, Leona Wilson, who was asked when the country will see more recurrent labor force surveys. This was her response.
We made a decision that because the labor force is a sample, and so it's based on what we call a population frame, and that population frame comes from the census, and so we made the decision that because our last census was in 2010, so we made a decision to really do a new sample design after we had the 2020 census.
Manpower challenges have long been an issue at the department and have often been blamed for infrequent and sometimes delayed reports. The labor force survey is typically conducted twice a year, in May and November.
Hopefully after we get the results from the 2020 census, we'll have a new frame that we could base our new sample design on.
The voluntary separation payouts for workers at the Grand Lucayan Resort still have not started, and there is no definitive deadline for the completion of the process. Jillian Gray reports.
While it was anticipated that the payouts for those workers at the Grand Lucayan Resort would be complete weeks ago, the Line Staffs Union is still in negotiations with the management of the resort.
We have an agreement in principle with the Line Staff Union. The union executives are now in, for the last week or so, they've been in consultation with the management at the hotel. We have a global figure that we have agreed with them. We're trying to work out the specific payout for all 160 persons, just to make sure that is accurate. Some of the monies that are owed to some of the employees at the hotel go back for several years, so we want to ensure that is accurate.
The war also wages on for the managerial union, which has yet to come to an agreement on the payout amount. The Lucayan Renewal Holdings Board is offering $3.2 million. However, the union is asking for $4 million, claiming that the board unfairly calculated the payout for the 90 managers. The Labor Minister said government intends to speak to the managerial staff union to get the matter resolved. Just 2 weeks ago, folks told our news that the money for the line staff payouts was transferred from the Consolidated Fund to the board, adding that payouts would begin soon. Well, today, no payouts have begun, and the Labor Minister could not give a definitive date as to when the process would be complete.
We do not have a time frame, but as soon as possible. The workers at the hotel, they have been waiting for quite some time. I know a lot of them are anxious. I know a lot of them personally. And we hope to bring resolution very shortly. But I do not want to put days on it. I do not want to put weeks on it.
Folks also declined to comment on negotiations regarding back pay for workers who would be leaving and those staying on staff. He said that issue is still the subject of discussion between the two parties. The Labor Minister said at the end of the day, they just want to ensure that all sides are content with the end result.
The main thing is to get the right formula to ensure that every worker get what he or she deserves, and to make sure that the unions and also to make sure that management and the board are contented with the settlement.
Now again, folks said he knows that workers are anxious to receive their payments and promised that he and his ministry will work tirelessly to ensure that negotiations are brought to an end in the shortest possible time. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar says the failed 2017 Fire Festival is proof that not every investor should be welcomed into the country with open arms. De Aguilar says the ministry and the former tourism minister got suckered into the failed 2017 Fire Festival. Former Minister of Tourism Owie Wilchcombe was minister at the time of the debacle.
Moving forward, we really have to be mindful of that and don't accept everybody willingly through the door they came in. And maybe the previous minister, probably in his exuberance to make the deal done, went all in. And with hindsight, that was a mistake.
On Sunday, Wilchcombe said a team from the ministry worked with the festival organizers on a regular basis, but was not directly involved as it was a private function being held by a private group. De Aguilar insists there was no one person who could be blamed at the ministry, as there were many things that went wrong.
The Ministry of Tourism, the staff of the Ministry of Tourism, I think did, what they were supposed to do, which was to facilitate the event in terms of customs and importation and licensing and all of that. We do that all the time for many, many projects. Unfortunately, probably a greater level of due diligence should have been done to ensure that the disaster that happened, while the Ministry of Tourism wasn't complicit in the failure, it certainly caused the country some reputational risk.
The festival was set to take place on Exuma in April 2017 during the annual Georgetown Regatta. The Fire Festival fiasco was thrust into the spotlight after competing documentaries by Hulu and Netflix brought renewed attention to the scheme that defrauded investors of huge sums of money and left hundreds of festival attendees stranded on Exuma after the event's abrupt cancellation.
The Fire Festival obviously was very, very unfortunate. This chap, Billy McFarlane, who we've all watched on television, came to the Bahamas and really committed a level of fraud for which he has now gone to jail. He sucked a lot of people in and led many people to believe that this was going to be a successful event.
Still to come on our news, nurses and junior doctors are still at odds with the PHA. We've got the Labour Minister responding to those concerns. Plus, the National Security Minister says new crime-fighting technology is right around the corner. Stay tuned.